Siltstone, made up of particles which are intermediate in size between mudstone and sandstone. Siltstones are formed by particles settling through water and accumulating on the ocean floor, riverbeds, lagoons, and lake bottoms. As you can see here in the video, this is known as Sharrott's Lake. Sharrott's Lake has been around since 1886. As you can see at the bottom of the bed, the muddy substance that you may call mud is also known as silt. Silt is a great fertilizer for crops and also plants. Silt was used back in ancient times by the Mesopotamians to not only build their homes, but also to fertilize their crops. But they didn't have to physically remove the silt from the mud. When rivers overflowed, they came in their croplands and added fertilizer to their crops, which not only made them grow faster, but also made them grow more. Right here, as you can see, is siltstone. Siltstone forms from a minimum of 1 century. 1 century is
Shale, how it's formed: compaction of silt and clay-sized particles of mud. This composition places shale in the sedimentary rock category known as mudstone.
Shale, discovered here at Clay Pits Ponds in 1976, almost 90 years after the first man discovered Clay Pits Ponds. Shale is a black substance, or not a black substance, but a black rock containing organic material that sometimes breaks down to form natural gases and or oils. Shale can be crushed and mixed with water to form types of clay, which is useful not only in America, but also in Middle Eastern countries. For example, this is a classic type of shale here, a type of brown shale. Shale can be identified by its smooth surface and multi-layers, but also because it's kind of fragile. Shale can also be used in third world countries where their houses are mostly built out of hardened clay. Like it was said earlier, shale can be used to be breakdown and for clay. When the clay hardens, it becomes rock-like, which is why back in the 1800s and 1700s, builders used clay out of shale for the formation of building structures. Most sandstones are typically used for building structures. For example, in the 1840s, throughout the 20th century, to build churches that are still standing today, sandstone was used. They are now used for styling building. Very costly, but also worth it. If you're looking to put the extra buck in your home, sandstone is a great building material, not only for the look, but because of its strength. Sandstone is made up out of the sediments you see right now on the floor. Particles of smaller rock and sand that build up over centuries of time just to create a rock, for example, typically about this size. This is a common example of sandstone. Although the coloration is off, that is because of the environment. The sandstone here in Staten Island isn't as typical as the sandstone in Rock City. Unfortunately, we did not have the budget to travel to Rock City, Kansas. But then again, we're a short paid crew. Sandstone. Sandstone in Rock City, Kansas is much larger than the example you just saw. It is almost the size of buildings such as skyscrapers that you see in New York. They are complete wall faces, and us humans go to areas like that to chop up smaller pieces of sandstone to create for building structures, which once again is very costly yet very worth it. Clay Pits Pond, founded in 1886. Like you've seen today, the many examples of rock that are common in the Rock City, Kansas area. You have seen the sandstone, the shale, while also seeing the very rare siltstone, especially for Staten Island. As on the walk home, we would like to give the extra information, not on Staten Island, but on the Rock City, Kansas area. Now, 95% of the boulders and rocks in Rock City, Kansas are quartz sand, which is pretty incredible But then again, it's common because it's more like a desert area, except for the highly populated areas. Then the extra 20% is original sandstone, or feldspar grams, replaced by calcite. Pyrite, which is now oxidized to goethite. Location in Rock City, Kansas. Sedimentary rocks were formed by what? Good. Sedimentary rocks were formed by weathering. Those rocks include sandstone, siltstone, and shale, which were common today. As I said, most of these rocks and muddy material can be used for very special and in particular things. But before going to that, I'd like to say how long it takes for them to make. Both of these rocks, based on our information, not both, but all three, take up to centuries to create. So it's not a quick process where you can sit around for years or maybe weeks to try to see and develop how a rock may be created. The rock cannot even be created in a lab environment. It has to be created by nature, which is very special. But the unique things that these rocks and or muddy materials do for the environment, like it was stated earlier, the siltstone or silt is very good to use for fertilizing crops and making it's not a strong structure, but in case of an emergency and you have nothing better to use, what you're going to do?